Hi everyone, my name's Cara and I am the Customer Success Manager here at Stellafai. It's great for you guys to be joining us today. So today we're going to be talking about pitching Stellafai as part of your consulting project to a client. And we're basically going to kind of talk through some of the pushback, some of the kind of key questions that you might be asked, so that you have some inspiration and some kind of terms and phrases ready to answer those questions, combat them. So yeah, that's the aim. Hopefully after watching this video, you will have a far deeper level of confidence and you'll know exactly how to turn these objections into opportunities to then be able to build trust and position yourself obviously as a really credible advisor, and also to show how Stellafai supports the work that you'll be delivering for your client. Okay, so if we're ready, we will jump in. So how do we get our teams to update the platform? This is probably one of the most common concerns. And I think what the client is really asking is, are we just introducing more? So it's really important to reframe updates as a ritual that improves the value they get from your consultancy. Okay, it's not another admin task to be completed for no particular purpose, right? It's a really important element of that behavioural change that they're hopefully trying to enact. So one of the responses that I find work particularly well is we recommend short weekly check-ins. They take about 20 minutes and they actually usually replace far longer status update meetings that teams are already running, right? So rather than adding work, you're basically simplifying governance, you're actually making better use of time that has already been spent. And you can also talk through some of the ways that the platform kind of encourages consistency. So for example, for one of our clients, we developed an app called Cadence, and this is a kind of gamification Tamagotchi game where a team who set their objectives and key results, they receive an alien egg which hatches, and every time they update their key results in the platform, the alien gets fed and it grows and matures. So that's quite a fun way to kind of build that rhythm. It's also really vital to set the expectation that for the first few update cycles, so especially the first month, we recommend that you as the consultant are in those weekly updates and you're running them, you're making sure that everyone stays aligned, you're making sure that everyone's getting the most out of those sessions, and you're really showing best practice so that they can see you do 4 or 5 and then you can pass over the reins and they can run them internally themselves. Yeah, that just starts getting them really focused and into that kind of repetitive mentality. The other thing that is really great as well, by the 4th or 5th week, platform has enough data within it that it can start providing really interesting visualizations. And this is usually the aha moment for teams and for leadership, because they start seeing the data being pulled through. And that's where you start getting a correlation between effort and the value that they then receive from that effort. And that is usually when it all starts to stick. So yeah, hopefully that gives you some kind of talking points to answer that question with. The next one is, how do we prove ROI? So clients are asking us a lot more at the moment, and it's actually a really positive question for them to be asking, because it shows that they are really focused on measurable impact, which is 100% what Stellafai is all about and 100% what it's for. So yeah, the key here is basically reassuring the client that the measurements start at the start of the engagement, not at the end, right? So like, we're not like retrospective here, like we are looking for opportunities to continually measure and continually improve. So it's usually say something like, at the start of the engagement, we will map the outcomes that we're trying to achieve with leadership team and with individual, and we'll also agree on the signals and the metrics that will help us show the progress that the progress has been made, right? Those signals and metrics are then tracked within the platform under kind of key results, and that allows you as a consultant to provide monthly value reports, right? And those basically show if key results are moving or not. Another great thing about Stellafai is we're looking at loads of different ways to actually connect your consulting activity to specific objectives and key results, right? So if you have a meeting with one team, with a member of one team, you can then connect it to a specific key result that that team member wanted to work on and improve, right? So that completely shifts the conversation from kind of really vague progress updates, maybe in like a Gantt chart or a spreadsheet, being about what was done, what changed, and what you as a consultant are thinking about doing next. And yeah, you can basically frame this as the data doesn't lie, there's no ego in this. If we see our activities aren't having an impact, we can basically shift track, adapt our approach and, you know, keep kind of optimizing our activity to really bring you that return on investment that you deserve. And this level of transparency is a great differentiator for you. You know, you're not just promising a PowerPoint at the end. Yeah, you're actually working with them in partnership. You know, it's a really nice shift in the consulting model. So third one is, isn't this just another tool? And when clients say this, they're often worried about tool fatigue within their teams. They might recently had a bad experience where they kind of tried to adopt a tool and the tool didn't work out. So a really helpful response should be centered around clarifying that Stellafai isn't replacing their current systems. Basically, it's a brand new layer that connect their existing systems to the outcomes that they desire for the wider business. Okay, it really doesn't replace anything. It's a whole new layer that's been added to their kind of tech stack. So most organizations already use tools like Jira, HubSpot, Google Workspace, you know, Slack, and Stellafai really doesn't compete with any of those. It can actually integrate with them, and it can then act like a window across them all, right? That just show how the work that's happening links and connects to the outcomes that leadership and that teams care about. So yeah, that's once again a really positive one. Yeah, it shows how hopefully Stellafai provides them with a visualization of data and a really good overview of their whole organization. Like I said, it's that layer that improves decision making, and yeah, it just gives them a really nice kind of viewpoint to look at their business from. Cool. So moving on to 4, we're already doing OKRs. Now, sometimes as a consultant, this can feel like a little bit of a red flag, but actually it's a really good starting point. And it means that the organization's already has some understanding of outcome-based thinking, right? So that's bonus, okay? We're kind of already winning the psychological battle, right? So rather than competing with their approach, it's really important to acknowledge it. So you could say something like, that's great. It means that the mindset already exists within the company, which is really positive. Basically, what Stellafai adds is the connection layer that makes those OKRs actually influence day-to-day work. And to kind of expose how your client might already be using OKRs, it's really useful to ask one of these 2 questions. So you could say something like, when did teams last look at those OKRs? Or you could ask, you know, are those OKRs connected to kind of task management and what teams are working on each week or each month? And basically in many organizations, the answer will be no. And that's when you can kind of double down on, okay, well, this is where Stellafai really adds value by connecting outcomes to delivery activity and the conversations that drive progress and strategic direction. Okay, so the differentiation isn't OKR tracking, it's coaching, accountability, and supporting and scaffolding that behavior change that they want to see within their organizations, so that yes, they can continue to use OKRs, but in a way that actually drives change within their business. Finally, we're down to leadership support isn't filtering down. Now, I'm sure, you know, as a consultant, you will have seen this challenge in transformation work before, and the mistake we found consultants sometimes make, and we've made ourselves, and also clients have made with us, is that they try to solve this challenge after delivery begins, and instead it's really important to kind of bring sponsorship alignment into the onboarding process, so that it's really built into the engagement from the start. So one of the things we try and do is we try and position it something like this. So before we begin any team level work, we like to run a really short leadership alignment session to make sure that the outcomes we're setting are really clear and shared throughout the whole organization. So it's really important that when you do team level OKRs, you know, you do take into account the delivery, the team who are delivering it, their views on what they should be focusing on. But if you've already done that high level work, you can then help the lower level teams align with the upper level teams. And then what we get is the whole business moving in the same direction, and everyone's actually contributing to everyone else's OKRs, which is the position we want to get our organizations into, right? So you can also highlight the star chart visualization, because this it absolutely lights up any alignment issues really, really quickly. And we often see that when leaders see how disconnected objectives appear across teams, it usually creates a much more productive conversation, and it can really help, and that can be really helpful for that alignment. Another thing that we found really helps kind of move this kind of leadership alignment to your work and your engagement is ensuring that you have one named internal sponsor who's responsible for maintaining kind of the OKR rhythm, but also who takes a bit of ownership to just help maintain that momentum with the platform use. Okay, data security and compliance will block this. So we're constantly looking at how we can improve our data security and compliance, and we're making a few changes to that over the next couple of years. But there are some really key things that you can highlight to whoever you're talking to. One of them is that we are Azure and EU hosted. We also SSO capability, and we are portable containerized infrastructure. Okay, so those are some of like the key technical terms that you can throw into the mix within your pitch. You may want to put it as an overview in your proposal, and you can also reach out to us if you'd like more details on that, and we can kind of provide you with more documentation as well. So this just prevents any procurement concerns from slowing the momentum later down the line. And in large organizations, it can also be really worthwhile suggesting an opportunity to do a small pilot engagement first. This builds and enables internal advocates to start emerging who will kind of push the platform use internally, and it can kind of buy you credibility before going for full procurement processes. We also recommend having a technical member of your client team available for any security discussions, so that those kind of worries can be removed and hesitations can be like quickly dealt with. This is all about kind of keeping momentum going in your pitch and your sale. So finally, we have consultants give vague advice and disappear. I wouldn't say that this objection is said outwardly, but it's definitely a vibe, and it's why Tim decided to set up Stellafai. Hopefully it's the reason why you've chosen to work with us, because you want to provide impact to your clients, and frankly this is your strongest opportunity to really drive home the value of your engagement, but also the value of utilizing it. So it's quite an exciting one. So it's really great to clarify how this is all about setting up accountability between yourself and the client, which is actually quite rare in consulting. And you can also clarify how the subscription model really reinforces it. So like we said before, there's no ego involved. The data doesn't lie. If it's not working, they stop the subscription. It's that simple. And also the incentives compared to old school kind of consulting models are really aligned, because you're aiming to produce the best impact. You're not trying to keep busy. You're not trying to get sticky. You're not trying to, increase your hours or anything like that. You are just there to make the change and enable that change. And hopefully, they'll love working with you and will recommend you to others. So that's kind of the focus. It's all about delivering ongoing impact, not producing tons of documentation that never gets read, right? Cool. So those are our 7 kind of key pushbacks. And I think some of the key things that I want you to take away from this video are that when a client raises an objection, especially as in-depth as these, it's really easy to feel defensive, but it's important to remember that most objections are simply requests for clarity and also reassurance. It's a big choice that they're making. And when they're handled well, they're actually great opportunities for creating stronger partnership with that client, because the conversation shifts, right? From should we try this to how do we make it work for us? And that's the moment where, we find there's great value in the Stellafai offering and a huge value in how it can improve your overall consulting offering for that client. So that's everything from me. Please do check out our other videos. I'll be in touch. If you have any questions, or if you have another query that comes up in a pitch or a consultation, please ping it over to me via email and I can kind of provide some advice on that. But thank you so much for watching, and catch you on there.